We are presently the most distracted, divided, and most confused Black population in history, and it's by deliberate design. It's because we are drowning in disinformation. There is a large amount of misinformation and disinformation propaganda currently within the Black communities, creating confusion and disruption. More specifically, it's deliberately designed to keep our understandings of our plight and condition flawed. Because in order for a people to liberate themselves, they must first gain a clear, concise, and accurate understanding of their plight and condition. Because if their understandings are flawed, then all liberating strategies and remedies that stem from those misunderstandings will also be flawed. Therefore, to prevent Black people from gaining the accurate understanding of our plight and condition that are required in order to develop the proper counter strategies necessary to liberate ourselves, white oppressive forces have spread lots of misinformation and disinformation into our communities. Presently, there are white oppressive forces that are comprised of white social scientists, white government agents, and propaganda designers working unrelentingly behind the scenes, perpetually feeding disinformation into the Black communities to keep us confused, distracted, and misdirected from gaining a true understanding of our plight and condition. To put it more bluntly, by keeping our minds dumbed down, distracted, confused, and voided of all liberating truths, allows them to keep us under their subjugation indefinitely. If you don't understand the hidden social sciences being presently used for the benefit of the system of white supremacy, then everything they do will only confuse you. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach. African proverb. Those who controls the information controls the mind. White oppressive forces have exploited their monopoly over information that Black people receives to systematically feed fraudulent propaganda into the collective minds of the Black population that keeps us thinking and behaving in ways that are against our own self-interest and that instead serve the system of white supremacy. Case, point, and proof. They're the reason why many African Americans are now insisting that we're not from Africa, although millions of DNA analysis have scientifically confirmed our African identity. However, the narrative that we Africans in America are not from Africa is fraudulent propaganda. It's designed to separate us from our unified African heritage. Without having a based identity to connect us to our vast cultural wealth over time, we become further fragmented and we become weaker as a people. We can then be made into anything the white oppressors wants us to be. That propaganda campaign is also designed to divide African Americans from Native Africans. When Africans are divided globally, we lose our global numerical advantage and we're stripped of all hopes of defeating global white supremacy. White propagandists are also the reason why many African Americans are now insisting that we made the N-word ours and that using it now ridiculously empowers us. It's actually also fraudulent propaganda that have been spread into the Black community by white propagandists. The truth on both accounts are the exact opposite from what they've manipulated millions of African Americans to believe. We were actually socially engineered to call ourselves by the N-word by white oppressive forces, and it adversely affects us on a subconscious level. The reason why they socialized us to call ourselves by the N-word is because to subjugate and control a targeted population, the first step is to neutralize their alpha male, aka those possessing warrior spirits. These are the males that are psychologically wired to protect our communities and our females. White oppressive forces neutralize the Black alpha male by social engineering millions of us to self-identify ourselves by the N-word. They did this because words, when repeated often enough, have immense power over the subconscious minds. Repeated words shapes our thoughts, and our thoughts held long enough by a word repeated often enough becomes a belief. A belief then becomes our biology. We psychologically become the words that we repeatedly call ourselves. It's a psychological phenomenon that white social scientists have thoroughly researched. When we repeatedly call ourselves by the N-word, this psychology conditions us to perceive ourselves through a false, inherent, subordinate, inferior identity that aids the white society in maintaining its social dominance over us. White social scientists describes what they've done to African Americans as merely instilling a value system into the collective subconscious minds of the black population that aids them in maintaining their authority and dominance over us. It makes us adhere to the authority and the existing infrastructure of the white dominant society. Those black people who don't critically think never notice their mental change. Calling each other by the N-word, we dehumanize each other. This makes it easier to mistreat each other. Now, here's the hidden propaganda reason why black people are learning more black racially affirming facts from each other on social media platforms than we do so within our white governed schools. It's all a propaganda scam. The white educational system's failure to adequately provide black students with a racially affirming curriculum, as it routinely does so for white students, is actually being done for maintaining white social dominance over black people. Because for a ruling class to maintain this position of social dominance over its oppressed population, they must condition the oppressed from a very early age to accept their own subordinate status and to adhere to the authority of the dominant population. To do so, the education given to the oppressed from the time that their minds are young and most impressionable must be the type that denies them of a racially affirming education. This psychology conditions the oppressed to accept their own subordinate status within a society dominated by their oppressors. When the oppressed population is denied of a racially affirming education, even the brightest among them may have little, if any, hope of mentally extracting themselves from their feelings of inferiority within the society. This is the true hidden reason why for most black people, their schools are in fact the places where they first experienced the implication that there's something wrong or lesser about being black. It starts in our school systems. We're being programmed back then. This is being done in order for a ruling class to maintain its position of social dominance over its subordinate population. They must condition them to think in ways that aids in maintaining the white dominant society's position. It's psychologically conditioned black people to an inherent subordinate status within the white dominant society. Most black people are totally clueless of the war that's being systematically waged against our collective minds by white oppressive forces. Nowadays, it's literally as if white oppressive forces are playing chess, while black people aren't even on the board playing checkers, but are instead playing hopscotch. The black ignorant are ignorant of their own ignorance. This profound ignorance gives the white oppressors their greatest power over us. This is why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb our ancestors demanded of us. The narrative that we African Americans are the Jews of the Bible is also fraudulent propaganda. Those African Americans who are insisting that we're the true Jews of a Bible based upon a few scriptures found within the book of Deuteronomy 28 ignores the contradicting fact that the scripture states that those people will be released from bondage upon reaching 400 years. We African Americans have now been in the U.S. for more than 400 years. In fact, 405 years to be exact, and there's no liberations in sight. Furthermore, the Bible was written by Romans in the year 325 AD. Rome was an immoral society that routinely engaged in massive orgies, wife swapping, pedophilia, incest, and death sports. They continued these practices even long after writing the Bible. These collective facts, combined with the facts that the Bible also strongly condones slavery, totally disqualifies it from being the true words of God. Moreover, the ungodly way that the Bible was brutally introduced to Africans also totally disqualifies it from being the true words of God. Think. The true words of an infallible God would not be introduced to a people through slavery, brutal violence, rape, castration, degradation, murder, oppression. No, that's not how God was introduced to a people. The white society uses the Christian religion to keep us also separated from our true African spiritual system. It also subdues our critical thinking ability and makes us passive. Christianity greatly served the system of white supremacy in terms of the minds of Black people. The Bible is an easily proven work of fiction that's believed by those who are either too brainwashed or too lazy to research facts. When we attach our real-life oppression onto a work of fiction, we are in fact making fools of ourselves. The truth of our plight and condition is that white oppressive forces exploit their control over information that we receive to wage a covert war against us. They manipulate the minds of millions of Black people to believe the unbelievable, to normalize the abnormal, to accept the unacceptable, and to defend the indefendable. Therefore, to think in ways that literally insults our own intelligence. Regardless of how intelligent people are, if it's possible to control the information and media images that people receive, it's entirely possible to control what they'll believe. Those who controls the information that we receive shapes our minds. Those who program the media we watch programs our minds. White oppressive forces have exploited their monopoly over the media images and narratives that Black people receive to manipulate us to think in ways that are against our own self-interest and that instead serve the interests of the system of white supremacy. This is the truth of our plight and condition. The white society controls all aspects of our lives, and they tell us what to think and what to believe. They create animosity between us by constantly inundating us with fraudulent propaganda that exaggerates the issue of Black on Black crime. This makes us perceive ourselves as being our own worst enemies and shifts Black collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it towards ourselves. This is the truth. And this creates Black self-hatred and disunity, which attacks the core foundation of what bonds us as a people. And we can then be ruled over forever. It's the true reason why many Black people are now self-loathing, perceives ourselves as being our own worst enemies, and reveres and defends Caucasians in spite of such a brutally horrific history of discrimination, racism, and slavery. It's always by design when the oppressed are thinking in ways that benefits their oppressors. They also focus our attention towards money and material goods so that we never connect with our true inner selves. They also negatively steer our culture while misleading us to believe that it's we that are guiding ourselves. This is why millions of us are self-identifying ourselves by the N-words, calling our women B's and H's, and glorifies pimps. Because they control our media images, it's actually them that are telling us how, as Black people, we are supposed to act, dress, and even talk. This allows them to have many of us acting like ghetto buffoons and dressing like sagging clowns. This isn't some feeble attempt at scapegoating that wrongly blames white people for our own bad behaviors as a means to absolve ourselves of those bad behaviors, as so many have been brainwashed to respond. What I'm teaching you is the absolute hidden truth. These are social science. These are the truth of our plight condition. A social science fact is that people function based upon the narratives they repeatedly receive about themselves. And they also imitate the media depictions of their group that they've accepted as being their reality. Therefore, those who writes of people's narratives and controls their media images literally control their culture. White oppressive forces are negatively controlling our culture because white oppressive forces exclusively controls our narrative and it controls our media images. They've weaponized this against us. They've exploited this scenario to wage a covert war against us. They are negatively steering our culture. They're waging a sophisticated covert war against we African Americans that most don't understand. Through the skillful, sustained use of disinformation propaganda and distorted media images and continued miseducation, repetitive news media subliminal programming, white oppressive forces have created a mental prison for the minds of black people. Those black people who don't critically think never notices their mental change. Our core problem is that the mentally enslaved ones are so stubbornly mentally enslaved that they fight against those of us who tries to free their minds. This profound ignorance gives the white oppressors their greatest power over black people. They also keep our lifespan short and our minds dumbed down while pretending to do the opposite. Whenever we band together and protest, they present a different story to keep sentiments in their favor because they own the mainstream media. They also dehumanize our image to make others insensitive to our plight. Those of us who are aware of this white racist programming system appropriately calls it the Black People's Matrix. And those of us who can see it are often thought of as being insane. The reality. In the Matrix film, Neo awakened to discover that the true humans were mentally enslaved by soulless beings that masqueraded themselves as being the highest evolved humans. Moreover, that these soulless beings kept the true humans within a large pods being fed a false virtual reality. These soulless beings are the programmers of everything that the humans believed. They perpetually kept the humans trapped within a false version of reality that allowed them to exploit them without resistance. Crazy as it sounds, the Matrix film is actually a story of what the white society has done to the black population. It is our hidden reality. The white oppressors often reveal through movies what they've done to black people. Some describe this practice as being a form of ritual marking of the victim, but it's actually a practice that allows the white oppressors to avoid the law of karma, K-A-R-M-A, called revelation of the method. There are hidden rules and principles within this warfare of domination that must be adhered to. The oppressors must make their oppressive tactics available to the oppressed. They therefore often embed them within movies or TV shows or books. They don't make the revelation easy to recognize. They just do it enough to meet the threshold necessary to avoid the law of karma. They masquerade it as being merely entertainment. However, because the oppressive tactics have been made available, when the oppressed do not act upon the knowledge, by default, they've given the oppressors permission to oppress and rule over them. The Matrix film is a revelation of the method system that allows the white society to avoid the law of karma because they made it available to black people. Nowadays, it's literally as if white oppressive forces are playing chess, while black people aren't even on the board playing checkers, but are instead playing hopscotch. This is why those of us who can see the truth, we must teach the truth. And that's why I'm asking you to spread these videos. You know, If you don't understand the system of white supremacy, then everything they do will only confuse you. White oppressive forces have exploited their monopoly over information that black people receive, which allows them to control what black people believe, and they've used this system to create a psychological prison for the minds of black people. We see that our people are thinking and behaving in ways that benefits the white society. We're distracted by saying, oh, it's a real lynch. It's a real lynch. We're distracted. But we have to understand how it's really being done, so we'll develop the proper kind of strategy to free the minds of our people. I educate to elevate. And once upon elevating the minds is when we will then liberate ourselves. One love and peace, brothers and sisters. One love and peace. If you're appreciating these videos, please just give me a comment. If you have any questions, just give me a comment. You can learn more by ordering my book, The Black People's Matrix, at www.theblackpeoplesmatrix.com. Thanks for listening. One love and peace.